In 2019, a washed-up duo of bench racers were sent to RC prison for the crime of on-track race incidents. These men fled Facebook to the platform of Podbean to safely threw their garbage without any listeners. Wanted by stock racers, they survive with weekly episodes. If you have a problem and don't want a solution and are okay with not using iTunes, then you can listen to the Track Walk RC Podcast.
Not even old and I'm old.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Track Walk RC Podcast. Colin, what episode is it?
26.
26, episode 26. I figured you'd have to think about it for a minute, because I almost have to ask every week.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, but I remembered listening to our last episode this afternoon. That's the only reason I knew.
Yeah, you would think with even not this many, we would lose count, but we do. So, but regardless, episode 26 coming at you guys tonight. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Another, 25 episodes to go. We're 25 in, working on 26 now. So we're, 6 months of content down. So we're going to keep these rolling at you. Lots of cool stuff planned over the next couple weeks. So just, keep tuning in to the Track Walk Podcast every week. But thanks again for joining us tonight, guys. And, quick shout out to, really just all the racers that, regardless if they're avid listeners or not, to our podcast for just the support and kind words all the time. We really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun doing what we do. And, we couldn't do it without you guys. We do it for you guys. So, we really appreciate, everything that you guys are doing to keep us motivated to continue on doing this. So we really hope that, you guys liked last week's episode with Justin. We sure did. And we've got another good one cooking for you tonight. We've got Keith Hadley on tonight. So I know a lot of you are eager to hear from Keith. It's kind of been a while. He made a exclusive Die Hard RC appearance about last weekend. Yeah. So yeah, I know everyone's really looking forward to that. So hopefully you guys enjoy what Keith has to say, but we're going to talk to him in a little bit. And Colin, I have something I want to talk about. Can you guess what it is?
I don't dare say.
Oh, man. Okay.
Because I'll probably be wrong and bring up another can of worms that I don't want to talk about.
So, well, this is the Can of Worms RC podcast, right? I went back and listened to our older episodes today. And it's kind of nice. All you have to do is wait about 6 to 9 months and you forget what you talked about. So it was like I was hearing all these conversations for the first time today. And so that's pretty cool. I feel like I learned some stuff, right? But we said some interesting things regarding stock buggy.
Oh no.
All right. And I got to thinking, because we were talking in an episode with, I think it was episode 2, and then we talked again in episode 3 about qualifying, right, with Brian, and we were talking about how boring IFMAR qualifying is, and how it's, probably the worst form of racing there is. And that heads-up qualifying, I've always claimed, would make for better racers, and that's why the starts of races are, most of the time, pretty bad. So, I was thinking about this, and, there was the issue where, stock classes kind of became a, instead of stepping stones, they kind of became this sort of, in my opinion, they kind of became this inflated thing where it's, cars became money pits and, egos grew and, it made it a really intimidating place for new racers to go, which thank goodness we had 21.5 come out. That's blown up. That's awesome. And I'm so happy that stuck on because I was kind of wondering at the beginning of the year how that was going to go. But it stayed, and it's been a huge success. So, and I don't see it going the way that I had pessimistically predicted. And
Not
so I'm
yet.
Not yet. Hopefully it never does, but they're doing a very good job of eliminating that. But
I have seen dynos at the track, though.
oh man.
I've seen dynos, the guys in the 21 class. 21.5 class. I've seen them using them.
They better not let me see them. But I was thinking about this, and I also was complaining about one of my races in 13.5 four-wheel buggy a long time ago. And I don't like racing stock, right? But it's for a couple of reasons, because, the intensity on the stand is huge. And I started thinking about this. I was like, so people make the jump from novice to 17.5, and then for the places that have it pro stock, 13.5, right? All that. This has created an issue where people get stuck in these classes, and I think that another combination of why you don't see people moving beyond these things, and why people kind of get stuck in the stock void for a while, where people will just stay there and never really move up to mod, right? And I'm not saying they have to. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I think the reason it doesn't happen maybe as quickly for a lot of people is because they don't learn proper racecraft. And what I mean by that, which this is a term that's been getting thrown around kind of a lot recently, and so I'll kind of clarify in case you don't know, is that means that, you have good presence on the track as far as where you are in relation to other cars, when to make moves, on vehicles in front of you, how to defend behind you, There's a lot more to racing than just trying to get around the track as quick as possible. Or as consistent as possible, which is another thing that I might go into later. But people don't learn that. And that's puzzled me. So I've been thinking about this, that if, let's just hint, even for a moment, just dream that more tracks started moving to heads-up qualifying. Think about how much better all these racers would get that actually get to learn with one another. And then they might find out that they can race in the other classes too, where they aren't as experienced with maybe the speed or the style of cars, but they know how to race each other. And I think that is one of the most underrated and overlooked things in RC when it comes to people who kind of stay in their lane, so to speak, and don't really branch out to other things, is because, they're like, oh, well, mod's just a little too much for me. You're like, well, is it the motor or is it the racing? It's a different animal, because, really, it's not that different driving a stock or mod car. It just isn't, in my opinion.
And, I would say that the racing in mod is cleaner for the most part. There's always the incidents once in a while that happen, or a bad start that gets ugly or whatever, but that happens in every class.
Well, yeah, but the difference, I think, is that the racing as a whole, let's go back to last weekend's 40 plus and two-wheel mod man.
Okay.
Both of those races, there were incidents, there always are, but top to bottom, from beginning to the end of the race, the racing was a lot more respectful. And I don't mean this as an attack on the stock guys, because you kind of just don't know what you don't know. You kind of just do. And that's what happens a lot of the time when people move up to novice to their next class. They don't learn racecraft in novice because I don't think you can. Honestly, it's just you can't. But they move up to the next race and
next class.
Next class.
Don't be racist.
And they get wigged out and they kind of just get crazy and erratic. And some people can kind of stick it out long enough to where that just sort of becomes their driving style. Others just kind of do their best to get around the track. So, the reason I'm bringing all this up is that I want to issue a challenge to stock racers to get out and run at least a two-wheel, just try racing two-wheel mod. Even race two-wheel mod with your stock car.
Yeah.
And just enter the class. Don't worry about how you're going to do position-wise. Just focus on the track time and racing with other people. Imagine what you can do with a minimum of 3 runs on a race day where all you have to worry about is how you drive and focusing on how you drive in relation to other cars. That is going to do so much more for you than the morning practice where, there's just a lot happening. You can't really learn anything. Most guys will tell you it's not really valuable. Or going to Friday nights or anything like that after setup's done, like that, there is no better track time than that of which when the clock is on. And it matters. Trial by fire, always. And you are going to find yourself getting so much better. So much faster.
Right.
That's the thing. You learn to truly drive smart. And that's something that, I'll be honest with you, I don't see the extra thinking and effort in some of those classes because, like I said, you don't know what you don't know. You just do. So, that's kind of what I wanted to open up with. A little PSA.
Yeah, you know what helped me a lot was when I go out to practice is to not go out and practice alone. Go out and practice trying to pass people, trying to drive near other cars without hitting them. That helped me a lot. And I still have a long ways to go when it comes to that, but it's really helped me. And it's taught me patience. Patience is the biggest thing that is lacking, I think, in most people's repertoire of skills when it comes to driving these cars. That you got to be patient, and you're patient, and that actually cost me in the 40 plus main. I wasn't patient enough to try to get around a lapped car, and I dove in where I probably shouldn't have, and it didn't end well for me. And if I had just waited until we got through the corner, I probably would have gotten away and potentially could have won that race.
Sure.
But I was impatient. Yep.
Yeah,
yep. Other people want
to.
Yeah, other people want to blame it on the other driver, but realistically, I put my car in a spot where it probably wasn't smart to do so. And, he didn't take me out. He didn't intentionally take me out or anything like that. That was, it just happened because I put my car in a spot where it probably shouldn't have been at a time it shouldn't have been, and I should have waited. But patience is so important, and it's very hard to learn because your adrenaline's running. And it's a race. You want to go fast. You want to go to the front. But, it can cost you by not being patient enough.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The most valuable practice sessions I've ever had were the ones with my dad where we would just try either passing each other or holding each other off. Because, like, my dad and myself, like, we have a speed difference between us, but our lines are almost exactly the same. So it is not an easy task for either of us to try and pass one another because we are both thinking the same thing, you know? And that is a perfect example of, like, times where, you know, I'll be behind him. You know, we always try and do it with the same car, right? I'll be behind him on the track, and it'll take me sometimes a couple laps to find a way around him because, like, you know, there's no open window. And I could just try and force something, you know, and just try and get by him. But then what am I going to learn from that? I'm just going to learn to race like a shithead. I don't want to do that. So that's, you know, that's the big thing. And there's something to be said that you touched on right there, is that there is a very underappreciated value to practicing with other people, especially people that are, you know, relatively close to your own skill level. They don't have to be as fast as you or faster. You know, it doesn't matter as long as, you know, as long as it presents to you a challenge where you kind of have to think to get around them. That's huge, and that's where a lot of people tend to miss the beat, I think.
Right, and if you don't get past them within the next two corners, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of your race. But if you try to push the issue and get tangled up, you're going to lose way more ground than you would have by following them around for a little bit longer to get by them.
Yep.
So you're not going to win a race on a fast lap. A fast lap will never win a race. So what wins races is being able to get by people, past people, not crashing. So I see so many people go out and practice by themselves trying to set fast lap after fast lap after fast lap. Well, that's not really doing you any good. You're going to learn more and get faster by practicing with somebody else, being close to their car on the track and trying to pass them, being patient behind them, learning how to follow without getting into the back of them is huge.
Oh, yeah.
That is so huge. Most people, not most people, but a lot of people will follow so closely that, you know, if you let off the gas a little bit early or something, they're in the back of you. And I still make that mistake once in a while myself. But leave yourself enough space where you can react if they have a mistake, and you'll quickly find your results getting better and better.
100%. It's huge. You know, the mental game in RC is talked about so much, but never really dealt with. Not a lot of people do anything with it. They talk about how big mental things are, but they never do anything to improve it. So, which brings me to another topic. Can you guess what that one is, Colin?
I don't even want to try.
Consistency. So, consistency is something that people talk about all the time. Oh, I need to be more consistent. That wasn't a very consistent run. That run sucked ass. Whatever you want to call it. Okay. Now, that is another thing where people talk about their runs. They talk about what a bad run is. And that usually refers to what? Mistakes, right? Crashes.
Yep.
You know? Or if they were, you know, dealt a bad hand on a marshal or something, but that's a separate issue. But most of the time it's talking about crashes, you know? Oh, I have the speed out there, but I wasn't very consistent. Okay, so why do so many people say that, but not understand that? So, and what I mean by that is that people think like this. People think that mistakes equals lack of consistency, that it's a 1-to-1. It's not. It doesn't necessarily mean the same thing. Okay, people miss that. People like to look at their consistency on Live RC, which is put on a metric. So, I mean, I guess that is fairly accurate, right? But people just kind of look at that percentage, kind of look at lap times. But then they see their mistake, they kind of think of it as an outlier and be like, well, you know, if it weren't for that. Okay, well, what if I told you that being consistent is so much more than just not crashing, right? I hear people say that, like, sometimes people will go out and they'll say they had 2 mistakes, all right? But they're blowing lines and, you know, their lap times on their clean laps really aren't even remotely close to each other. And they say, that was a pretty consistent run. It wasn't, right? So what this is, we really wanted to start off with some consumer advice tonight. This is amazing. But
hey, you brought this on yourself, buddy.
I did. But this is another sort of thing where I want you guys to think about this for a minute. I want you guys to think about what it means to be consistent. All right. I had this kind of epiphany last week. Two-wheel drive mod buggy. Last week, I was sitting third in the A for most of the race. Probably 6 of the 7 minutes or however long that race was. Pretty much until the last minute. I got out to an early lead. I got really lucky on the start. And I was just going. I wasn't catching the people in front of me. And I was kind of getting got behind me, but I never crashed in that race. But I did make a couple of mistakes that ultimately led to me getting caught and passed, which were the Punisher. You know, the one that really did me in was going into the first turn. I went just wide enough in the first turn trying to drive defensively that I opened just a cars width gap on the inside line of the corner, and that was just enough for him to get by me. That's all it took. Now,
and that is skill in order to take advantage of that situation too.
Yeah,
I don't know who it was, but
it was Wayland. It was Wayland. So
yeah,
you know
that
he
is
was
skill
just
that is learned.
Yeah,
yep.
It was awesome.
Yep.
I can't even be mad about that.
He was sitting, being patient, waiting for a mistake like that, and he took advantage of it when it presented itself, and that's huge skill to learn that.
No, absolutely. He never once stuck it in. He never once tried to make a gap himself. He waited for the opportunity, and it came. I handed it to him. I handed that thing to him on, a hot plate.
Yep.
So, could I really come off of the stand from that run? Obviously, I was plenty happy with the run. But could I really come off that stand and say, well, I never crashed. That was a good, consistent run. Well, no, not really. And now I understand that this might be a really nitpicky example. And I totally could see that. I could see it that way. But this is just kind of the way you have to approach things if you truly want to build up your level of attrition when it comes to RC racing, because that's what it is. It doesn't matter if it's 6 minutes or 30 or an hour. You've got to survive. You have to be able to put a whole run together. And if you can't do that, but you know your car is good, you know it's a mental thing, you have to take opportunities to strengthen that. No product is going to fix that for you. So that's where it comes in. The only thing that separates people, and there is such thing as talent. There is, but I think on a club race level, there's maybe not quite the disparity that, maybe some people would think. I don't know. That's a debatable subject. But the biggest thing that I think separates people on a club level is determination and focus. How badly do you really want it? It's that time of year. People are seeking sponsorships. They think that that's going to be their big breakthrough, that's going to be, what gets them to that next level. Okay, whatever you think is best for your race program, but at the end of the day, it's how are you living inside your own head? And that's kind of what I'll leave that with.
Well, there you go. That's some good advice.
Hell yeah. So, 24 minutes, just about, of consumer advice directed at you from the Trackwalk podcast. So you guys can't say we're not doing anything for anybody. We're out here trying to make better races out of you. So, Hopefully,
take it or leave it.
That's right. Do whatever you want. I never claimed to know anything. But I hope that a couple of you guys towards the end of Die Hard season, because winter time especially is the best time to work on stuff like this. Because you learn a lot faster indoors. But I hope some of you guys approach us at the end of the year. Try some of this and tell us how it goes for you. Tell us what your experience was trying to improve your mental game, because we want to know, and we like seeing people improve. You know, there's going to be days, you know, I mean, it happens, you know, already, but you know, there's going to be someone that is kind of a mid-pack to low-end racer right now that in 2 years is going to be kicking everyone's ass. It's just the way it goes.
Yep.
So who's it going to be?
Who wants it? Who wants to do it?
Because that's the big thing, is that's the true test of how badly do you really want it. And you know what? If you're just out there racing for fun, hanging out with your buddies, don't really care, well, it doesn't apply to you. But watch it. It makes a big difference. So, with that, on to anything else. Let's see. What else we got a little bit before we bring Keith on, Colin?
There was some racing going on last weekend. I don't know if that's ready for this segment, but
I can certainly find out. So there were, a couple Black Friday races last weekend. TRCR had some PDX, which you went to. Yeah,
I think TRCR had like 100 entries, and that's typically their biggest club race of the year. And then PDX Underground in Portland had their Rockstar Series race, which was 80 entries, I believe.
Yeah.
Which was pretty good. That was a good race. I was there. Joe Pillars puts that race on, puts the whole series on, and it was great. Good layout and great fun hanging out with people I haven't seen in a while. So that was fun. And then Northwest Hobbies had a Black Friday race as well, and I'm not sure how many entries they had. I haven't looked that one up, but.
Okay. Yeah, the only one that I can get results on right now is PDX. So it looks like a couple guys just right off the bat were, Joe Pillars taking the 13-5 4-wheel win, followed by Ryan Hot Pockets Rivas and Jim Meyer. Kelsey Miyoshi came 6th in that one, so shout out to him from Die Hard there. 17-5 Buggy take the win. Shannon Halfeck, took the win.
Yeah, Shannon drove really well in that race. That class all weekend.
He beat some fast names to that one. He would have had to. That's awesome. Good for him.
Yeah, his car looked great. He drove it well.
Cole Hagar. Don't want to butcher his last name. And number 2, Mike Kozo in the 3. Good job to those guys. 21-5 Buggy. Love this. Robert Undrill taking the win. Vince Limuauco. I hope I butchered that one too. Also, I'm sorry. And Sean McClurg, top 3 out of those guys. Good job. 40 plus is Brian Markroft, Jim Meyer, and Jack Ligon. Good for him.
Yep.
Mod Buggy. Rivas taking the win in Mod Buggy. That probably was some pretty solid racing.
They had some real good racing. It was really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Andy DeBrino in the 2, Joe Pillars in the 3. He beat some fast dudes in that race.
Yep. Yeah. Pockets is the real deal.
Yeah, sure is. Only 3 cars in novice, but shout out to them anyways. Jackson and Stephanie Randolph and Big Pam. I like that name.
Big Pam.
Stock truck was Kozo, Jeff Snavely, and Colin Branch. Colin Branch Racing Truck. What happened?
I love truck. What are you talking about? Well, I got halfway down there and remembered that I forgot my car at home. So Shannon, being the awesome dude that he is, let me drive his really dialed stadium truck, and it was pretty fun. It was pretty fun. It was the truck was really dialed, and I made a few mistakes, which cost me, but that's it was fun. Top three with that group of people is nothing to be ashamed of. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. It's always super hard to go down and do well on other people's like carpet tracks.
Yeah.
It's so hard to beat locals at any of those, just because even, with us racing on carpet every 2 weeks, it's just a different world. It's different environment, different track. It's a little bit harder adjustment mentally than it is, I think, going from dirt track to dirt track for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and their carpet, it's similar carpet to what we've got, but I think it's older, so it's got a little more grip.
Ah, okay.
So, and it gets a lot more run time on it than our carpet up here does.
Oh, sure.
It's a permanent track, so. But yeah, it was fun. It was good.
Good deal. Well, congrats to everyone from those results that I just listed off, and then the winners and podium finishers from the Tacoma and Northwest races as well. I apologize, I don't have those results. Y'all just race too much, so it's hard for me to find them. But no, good job to all those guys, and glad to see so many tracks doing so well. It's nice. There was a time for a little bit where the Portland RC scene was looking pretty shaky. So it's awesome to see a couple tracks doing so well down there and having such a devout following. That's what it really needed.
Yeah, they've got a good group of consistent racers that are supporting them, and they do real well. So,
oh yeah,
hopefully they continue to grow.
Hell yeah. Well, cool. All right. Well, now it's that moment you all have been waiting for. We're gonna go ahead, call up Keith Hadley real fast. Hey, Keith, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Doing great, man.
Long time no talk.
Yeah, it's been a while.
How you been? What have you been up to?
I've been good. Just working. I changed jobs earlier this year. I'm now an engineer down at Boeing, which has been a lot of fun. Doing some drag racing, hanging out with my dad and my girlfriend at the track, and it's been a lot of fun. No big wins to brag about or anything like that, but it's been good. Sitting in a real car going fast. Recently just bought a house too. Earlier back in September, I closed on a house of my own finally, which is big step, big change for me. But no, I've been doing good.
That's awesome. Well, I think the first question is girlfriend. What is this? Is this new? Is this long time girlfriend, or what's up with that?
Fairly new. I mean, we've been together quite some time now, I guess. Not super long, but we met back, I guess it was July of last year, so not quite a year and a half.
Okay.
She's really awesome. She digs the racing thing, and no, we're going good.
Oh, that explains why we haven't met her yet. That's cool.
You guys will. We'll be out of the track more.
Cool. Right on. Well, you're doing some drag racing. Let's get into the drag racing thing.
All right.
What car are you running? Same car? What is it?
So about 10 years ago now, I bought a 1976 Ford Mustang Cobra 2. It was my dad's car. He owned it back in the 80s, sold it to a longtime family friend. He let it sit in his garage. I bought it back when I think I was 16 or 17. I got into drag racing a little bit. Well, I was still RC racing at the time. And I bought it back from him, and my dad and I did a bunch of restoration, bunch of work to it, built an engine for it, and started racing that, about 8 years ago now, here and there. Not nothing too major. I was still RC racing at the time. Then I went to college and got out of RC racing, got out of drag racing, and then I came back, did a little bit of RC racing after I graduated, but then getting back to the drag car. So let's see, at the end of 2017, I made a decision to kind of let go of RC racing for a while, go back to drag racing. I tore half the car apart, had it spread all over the garage. I was worried I would never get it put back together, but I I did a lot of work to it, built a new engine, wanted to go faster, got it all put back together, and did some more racing with it in 2018 and then also this year. Like I said, no big wins to brag about, but it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And what's in it for an engine? What kind of horsepower and what's it run? What's your best run?
So it's got a 30,000 sport over 302, so it's a 306 small block Ford. I wouldn't dare put a LS in a Ford car. I'll just say that now. But it's a C4 automatic transmission, 4.8-inch in the back. It makes I've never had it on a chassis dyno. But you can calculate I'm guessing the weight around 3,100 pounds, and it runs 112, 113 miles an hour in the quarter. It's probably in the neighborhood of 375 horse. It's not naturally aspirated, no power adders, nothing too fancy yet. Fastest time I went earlier this year, I went 11:87 at 113 or 114, I think.
That's
and
respectable.
It's on pump gas. It's street legal. It's a blast. It's fun.
You mentioned adding power adders or something coming up. Is that in your plans for next year? Or?
Maybe not. Probably not next year, since I bought a house. But in the future, I want to do a Pro Charger. I would love to do turbos, like twin turbos, but I don't know. I guess I'm too indecisive. A root style blower with a injector hat sticking through the hood is the coolest hot rod look you can ever have. So I'm open to that as well. So we'll see. I have another race car I've been thinking about, focusing as a race car on, and my Mustang being more of a toy that I go rip around on the street. But time will tell. We'll see. My mind changes way too often.
Too funny. That's funny. I know how that is. I can't keep a car longer than a year and a half. I get bored. I have to try something new.
Yeah.
It's like my Trailblazer SS that I've got right now. It's fun, but I've had it for just over a year and a half, and it's time for it to move along and make way for something different.
Haven't you had that for quite a while though? The black one, right?
The black one, yeah, it's about a year and a half.
Oh, really? I thought you've had it a lot longer than that.
No, a year and a half's about what I keep cars, and then I flip them and move on to something different. Time to get some better fuel mileage. This thing's terrible. With all the traveling
But I mean, yeah, that's fair. There's a fine balance of how much you're willing to give up for the miles per gallon.
Yeah, well, I needed something big to haul all the business stuff to the track and everything, and I just couldn't bring myself to drive something big and boring. So I got something big and not boring, but you pay for it.
But your wallet pays for it when you go to the gas station.
That's right. Now that I don't take the business to the track anymore, I don't need anything quite so big. So it's time for something different.
Well, hopefully with some American horsepower under the hood.
Oh, we'll see. We'll see.
I don't have a lot of room to talk. I mean, I drive a Ford Escort to work every day, so.
Oh, you still have that thing?
Talk in that. Yeah, the most valuable car I've ever owned. Like $350, I paid for it six years ago now. Just under 200,000 miles. Still rolling.
That's the same one you did the burnout in the hotel parking lot in Walla Walla, right?
Oh man, I forgot about that. Yes, that's the same one. Oh man, you remember how shocked I was that it left 2 marks? you and I was so mad because I backed into that parking spot, and then I got out of the car. I was getting out of the car, and I think Jesse or somebody said, "Oh, there's a sign that says pull-in parking or motorcycle parking only or something to that effect." And I was like, "Are you serious?" And it was just a long day. I mean, you know how it goes. And like, oh, well, let's see what this thing can do. Rev her up, jump the clutch, and got a little bark out of her. And it was perfect timing. You and Jen were just sitting out on the outside of your hotel room cooking burgers or whatever on the barbecue.
We had our barbecue outside the hotel door.
Yeah. Oh man.
That was so funny.
I was so surprised that nobody from the hotel or anybody came and looked to see what was going on.
Yeah. Well, they probably heard it and then saw the car and was like, just let him have his fun.
That hotel was in a weird spot though. Like it kind of looked like something like that might be a little commonplace. So I imagine no one was really too bothered by it.
Yeah, it's not as that hotel wasn't as good as the hotel that we first stayed at the first time we went to Walla Walla. It was it was like the Bates Motel on the outside, but it was like the Taj Mahal on the inside. It was pretty wild.
Jesus.
Yeah, there was some interesting people walking up and down the street around that place.
Man, that's anywhere you go. You go to a hotel in any city in the world and you'll see that.
That's true. So we all used to travel, together years ago when Keith, you raced the NCTs a lot. I think it was probably 2016, from beginning 2016 to the end of 2017. It was like you, myself, Jesse Munn, and Sam Moz.
Mm-hmm.
And probably some of the best times ever. That was like I think when I had my absolute most fun with NCTs, kind of right before like we both stopped racing them.
Mm-hmm.
And so going back to that, you stopped racing, you went to drag racing, right? What do you think? What was it about, I guess, drag racing compared to the RC racing that kind of got you to a point where, like, you know what, like this was fun and all, but time to kind of go back to doing this? What was kind of like the shifting point for you?
Well, there's a couple things, and I've been pretty vocal about this to you guys and my close group of friends. When in RC racing, and a lot of people may or may not know, but I started racing 20 years ago, and so I've been around a lot and put a lot of laps on an RC car, many different forms and fashions and places, but I grew up around drag racing with my parents. My parents both, they met at the drag strip, and that's just kind of always been our thing. And RC was something that my dad and I could do together. I was 6 or 7 when we started, and when I wanted to help all the time with the drag car, but how much can a 6 or 7-year-old do around a drag car? And RC was something that we could both do together, and we had a lot of good times, traveled a lot. But anyway, get back to what you asked. Going from RC to drag racing, I've been pretty vocal. Like it got to the point in RC racing where the amount I was putting in and the amount I was getting out, as far as time and money and just the struggle of the grueling weekends and the road trips and the hangovers that you get from those, it just wasn't what I was putting in. I wasn't getting out. And
sure,
in drag racing, almost pretty much anywhere you go in drag racing, you pay your entry fee, and there's a paycheck waiting for you at the end of the day if you do good enough. And that was really appealing. So combo that with, I get to sit in the car and go fast. It's pretty appealing.
What kind of money do they pay out?
So that ranges immensely. So I primarily race down at Pacific Raceways down in Kent, Washington, and the same place that they hold the Nationals, where anybody can go buy a ticket and see the Nitro cars run, which I recommend anybody that's never seen the Nitro cars run at the drag races. It is something to see.
Oh,
so cool.
Definitely.
So, but the regular like Saturday night bracket race, I can pay $50 to enter, and if I win, I get, I think, $500.
Okay.
So, if I traveled, so there's a big race down in Vegas, and there's a whole wave happening in bracket racing. I'm a bracket racer. I'm not like a heads up or a no prep or any of that. I'm a bracket racer. You project your dial in on your car, and it's first to the finish line without going faster than your dial with a handicap start. And so there's other races, bigger races, and earlier this year there was a race in Michigan that paid $525,000 to win.
Wow.
Oh.
Next year there are two races guaranteed. Two races that you can go to, guaranteed to pay $1 million to a bracket racer
to win. Wow.
To win. So, that ranges a lot. Granted, the entry fee for those races are a lot more. I think the race that paid $525,000 this year, I believe it was probably in the neighborhood of $2,000 to enter.
Right.
Sure.
But $200,000 and a good day with your race car will net you a pretty good paycheck. Life-changing money.
Yeah. Now, does that include all classes, or the electronic boxes and all that kind of stuff?
So those bigger races that pay a lot of money, it's basically one class. It is, you can run the electronics, you can run a throttle stub, you can run a delay box, and they're primarily eighth mile racing, and that's more for tighter racing, and the program was faster with eighth mile racing. There's people have different reservations about eighth mile versus quarter mile. I've done them both. I think they're both fun, but my car, like I race like sportsman or pro bracket, and I foot brake my car. I don't use a trans brake. I don't use a delay box, and I shift my car. I don't have an air shifter or anything in my car. So my car wouldn't be as competitive at those races, but there's nothing stopping me from spending, $1,000 or so on electronics to make it more competitive and go to those races.
Right.
So it's not just, the Saturday night bracket race here at Pacific. You could take your Trailblazer and run sportsman or pro, depending on how fast it goes, and you'd be on the same playing field as me. So I guess it's a little bit narrow, a little bit of a limited scope in terms of classes, but it's very high end racing at those really big money races.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Just wins by a thousandth, wins by a 10,000ths. It's pretty incredible to watch.
Do some of the budget racers actually go to these races as well?
Yeah.
To the big one like that?
Yeah, so they're at some of the races they will do like a foot brake or non-electronics portion where like I could go enter, and they'll have like a 32, 38 car shootout or whatever. Every race is different, and the winner of that bracket will like get automatically entered into like the semis or the, way deep into the, electronics category, if you will. So some guys do. There's a big race down in Vegas every year. It's called the Spring Fling. It's like 5 days long, and there's a lot of guys that have relatively the same equipment that I do that go down there and do well.
Interesting.
It's just it's a matter of how much you want to put in. It takes a lot to get your car all the way to Vegas, and then entry fee and hotels, and gas and all that good stuff.
Right. But as compared to RC, you have at least a potential, even if it's a slim opportunity, right? Like you still at least know that there is something on the line.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that probably makes it way more I would say invigorating being at that race.
Yeah, I'm sure. I've never been to like one of those big money races, but I heard a lot of people talk, and the atmosphere is, you can cut the tension with a knife, but in the later rounds, when money's being thrown around and they're talking payouts, and usually there's a lot of times, a lot of times at those big races, they'll get like the last like 32 cars or the last 16 cars, and it's like, okay, we have $100,000 here we can split up. We don't have to race for what the flyer says, because the flyer will say $100,000 to win, but we've made it this far. Let's maybe even it out a little bit more. And so like the winner doesn't always get the the advertised purse, which one could argue one way or the other. I've never been in one of those situations, so I guess I can't really talk a lot on that, but overall the like atmosphere is fun. I mean, you're playing with your race cars, and you're at like in Vegas, it's a destination city, destination track. How could it not be fun?
Yeah, they got 4 wide there now.
They do. Bracket racing would be very difficult 4 wide, but it would be interesting.
That extra element of having 2 other cars you have to watch.
Yeah, if you're in the middle lane, one of the middle lanes, you gotta look both ways. That could be dangerous. Maybe not such a good idea. But, it's pretty funny. I've heard a lot of people talk. It's like the guys that run 150, 180 miles an hour, they're looking sideways and not where they're going.
Oh gosh.
Which presents kind of a safety issue, but that's what we do. brief moments.
Yeah, nobody said racing was safe.
That's true.
Racing was safe, people would be doing something unsafe.
That's true.
Yeah. So
fair enough.
How is there a lot of sponsorships in drag racing? Is that like similar to RC, how all that works?
So sponsorship is definitely a thing. I wouldn't say that for like the average Joe, it's not nearly the same as in RC. You're not gonna find a lot of sponsored racers, like at a local Saturday night race. But if you go to a national event, or if you go to like one of those big money races, there's people that do it for a living, and they rely on sponsors and help them out with product. It's maybe not at a manufacturer level, like a car manufacturer level, like there is in RC. Ford or Chevy don't, sponsor, John Smith and his, 70 Camaro that only races, on Saturday nights. But, different brands, like Dart, Brodix, different brands, Biondo Racing, I could, you could list the brands on and on, that, some of the people that really take it serious and try to make a living at it, or and other people just, there's some times where people will be going like, hey, I'm going to Medford, or I'm going to Boise, or I'm going to Vegas this year, like, just reach out on social media, or like within your close knit group of friends, and say, hey, I'll throw your stickers on the side of my car, throw me some gas, some tow money. So I wouldn't say it's like as big of a thing in drag racing as an RC, but you don't see guys on Saturday nights just like craving to be sponsored by somebody, like you might see in RC.
Right.
Sure.
Right. So have you watched any of the I'm sure you have, like was it Street Outlaws, the stuff they've been playing with the no prep racing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was a big time follower of that show, and I haven't watched it much recently. Excuse me. It got too Hollywood. It got too dramatized for me. I do like the idea of what they're doing with the No Prep Kings series, where they're going to the track.
Right.
I'm not a huge fan of the no prep thing. I love the cars. I love, how fast they're going. I really hate, seeing people wreck. Some of those guys got $250,000 wrapped up into their car.
Yeah.
And because the track wasn't prepped, they wreck it. I just, when it could be avoided with the prep track and you could go faster. It just doesn't quite make sense to me.
Right. Well, it seems like something that's taken over the country pretty strong is this no prep and the big money races and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's a big thing and it's entertaining. Those guys draw a crowd like no other when they go to a track.
Yeah, see
it's pretty impressive.
That's the thing. The attendance at NHRA drag races has steadily been declining, and the no prep stuff and the big bets and all this, the drama that comes with all of that seems to be gaining popularity, and it's bringing the crowds back to the drag strips.
Yeah.
So, that's hopefully that's helping even the grassroots guys with the track staying open and more support at the track, that kind of thing. Do you see any of that? Do they do any of that kind of stuff here in the Northwest?
I'm not familiar. Oh, okay, no, I take that back. I am familiar. So there's a group of guys that started doing a thing called West Coast Grudge. They do it at Pacific. I'm not sure if they go out to Bremerton or any other the other tracks up here and around Washington. They do like a more of a grudge race type atmosphere. Instant green, no times, kind of deal. And I don't know if they're doing like a no prep thing or if they, I don't know if they're still prepping the track, but those have gotten a lot of attention. As far as the Northwest, I would consider Boise the Northwest. There's a drag strip there, a very famous drag strip, and the Street Outlaws crew came to that track this year. I'm sure I didn't follow it or didn't attend myself, but I'm sure there was tons of people there.
Yeah,
the stands were packed.
It looked packed to me, for sure.
But outside of that, I'm not aware of any, quote unquote no prep racing going on.
Okay, well, that's cool.
Only RC no prep drag racing.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. I'll see if that takes off. Brett was all gung ho about it last time I talked to him about it.
Yeah. We'll kind of have to see. It's kind of like the crawling thing here. I think it might have a little bit of a surgence this upcoming summer. So I don't know if I'm particularly interested in it myself, but I do want to get out and watch it a couple times just to see how it turns out.
Yeah, it might be fun. For me, I would rather sit in the car and race.
Yeah, if you have the means, why not,
Right. Well, anybody that's got a driver's license on a car,
that's true.
Can go do it.
That's a good point.
I won money. I won money in my dad's 4-wheel drive Ranger drag racing it, so it can be done.
Damn.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of drag races that were won with the old K car or the station wagon or something that's it's super slow but super consistent.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of bracket racing is, I could take my, probably 16, 17 second Ford Escort out to the track and compete with a, 9-second Mustang or Camaro or something. it don't matter how fast you go. It's about hitting the tree and driving the finish line.
Yeah, they make them chase you down.
Yep.
Oh, cool. Well, good. No, I'm glad that you've been still racing. You know, it sounds like you've been having a great time with that, and it's probably is it less or more stressful than RC, or you think it's just kind of a different stress?
You know, I think it's probably as stressful, but for shorter stints. I mean,
Sure.
A drag race like my car runs, high 11s, low 12s. You got to be. I mean, and you roll up to the line, and you're shaking. You try to stay calm and cool, but even Dan Fletcher is the most successful sportsman racer ever, and he says he gets nervous for first round, and so you're rolling up to the line, then you do your burnout, and then once your helmet's on and the car's on, and it's not. I wouldn't say stressful. You're anxious, and you have to just channel all the focus you can for the next 30 seconds. And if you can get every ounce of focus you can have all together for those 30 seconds, you're gonna have success.
Now, I've done some drag racing as well, and is the burnout still as much fun as it was as a kid?
Oh yeah. The smell and the sight of the smoke, it never gets old.
Right. You're doing it for a purpose, but it's still a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's a good time. It makes for good photos too.
Right. I love it.
Oh, that's badass. So, back to sort of your time in RC, right? You had two really big stints. You had the 2000s leading up to when you started college, and then of course after you got back. Racing the NCTs and everything for a while. You accomplished a lot in that time. So, what do you think, of I guess maybe your whole time in RC, of any of your race wins or championships, things like that? What do you think were your favorites?
It's hard to argue against the 2002 Roar Stock Nationals. So my dad and I, we went to the 2000 Stock Nationals. That was actually in Spokane at the Hank Perry track. I finished, I think, 7th in juniors. My dad had some issues. He was in the B main of the Masters class. They had the 40 and over class. And then in 01, we went to Columbus, Ohio for a Stock Nationals. I finished 2nd in juniors. My dad won, so he was national champ in Masters that year. And then we went in 2002, we went to Salt Lake City at the old IRCR track. They've since moved it, but that race holds a special place in my heart, my memory. My dad and I both won. I won juniors, he won Masters. And what made that race special was Saturday night. So qualifying was Friday and Saturday. We were both TQ in our respective classes. And this was Stock Nationals, so back then they separated mod and Stock Nationals. So guys like Matt Francis, Billy Easton, Joe Pillars, those guys didn't race. They were there for support. And so we were both DQ, and then Saturday night, our truck got broke into at our hotel, and all of our cars, radios, parts, all got stolen. Shattered back window. my dad was a smoker back then, and he got up before us. My mom was with us on that trip. We actually drove, from Auburn all the way to Salt Lake, and he comes back in the room. And he's like, our truck got broke into, and all our stuff's gone. And this is Sunday morning. We're finding this out like before mains.
Yeah.
And so, obviously we're devastated, and, cops showed up, and, of course he wanted to take his sweet time, and the hotel did absolutely nothing for us. It's, you're at your own risk.
Sure. And
so we go to the track, and we tell everybody, we're like, all our stuff's gone. Luckily, our toolbox, our tools and batteries, chargers, things like that were at the track, so we still had all that stuff. But so we obviously we didn't have cars, we didn't have radios. It was not a good start to that day, and we were 850 miles from home. But the pros like Matt Francis and Alex, I'll butcher his name, Chirico, I believe, or Trujillo. I apologize, I can't remember his name, but and Billy Easton and a lot of people helped us out and found us cars to race, and we both ended up winning. It was a pretty special day.
Wow, that's a crazy story. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that. We got these nice glass trophies that say national champion on them, and back then social media wasn't a thing, and we got all our RC news through magazines, RC Car and RC Car Action and RC Driver and magazines like that, and there were, it was a national event. It was Roar Nationals, so like there was magazine guys there and took a bunch of pictures. We were in some articles, and it was a pretty special day. We never got our stuff back, and but it was still, it turned out like it should have. So it was good. It was awesome to see how many people pitched in and helped out, loaned us stuff and tires, and because back then it was spec tires, and
yeah,
it was stock too, and so there were spec motors, brush motors, way back when. I'll try not to say back in the day too many times in this podcast. But that's definitely the most memorable one. The year I in 2017, when I put down 6 TQs and 6 wins in e-buggy, that was a pretty special one for me. Also, the same year I won the Nitro Championship. I tried, several times back in the, 05 to 08, 09 era to win a Nitro Championship and fell short every year. So that was pretty special too.
That's pretty cool.
I remember racing with you and your dad back in the early 2000s for it was the Wenatchee NCT race. A bunch of us Canadians would come down that weekend and do that race every year. And man, that place was really cool.
Yeah. Wenatchee was our first taste of loose, loamy, rough outdoor racing, and we started our racing at TRCR, and I think it was in 02. I want to say in 02, that was the first time we went there, and the first NCT race it wasn't even called the NCT back then, in 03, I think. Wenatchee was a special place for me. I have a lot of fond memories of that place. I wish they were still racing there.
Yeah, likewise.
That was a good track.
Yeah, for sure. What's your favorite track in the Northwest?
Oh man, I heard Travis say this on an earlier show, and I can't disagree. The outdoor track at the old Lewiston outdoor track is probably my favorite. current track. Obviously, that track's not around anymore. Just the amount of dirt that they had, and just the way that they were able to make layouts was perfect. The size was perfect. But I would say around the Northwest, current tracks that we can still race on. Man, it's tough. I haven't been to Burlington since they expanded it. I'm sure it's pretty awesome. Everybody says it is, but man, the tracks that we could still race on.
You've been to Pasco, you've been to Walla Walla, you've been to Spokane, you've been to all of them. Have you been? Oh, you went, but I don't think you raced at the new track there in, what is it, Potlatch?
Yeah, I went with Jesse last year.
Right.
I didn't get to run on it, but that track looked fun. How was it this year? Was it better than last year?
Similar. It was pretty similar. It was. Did they cut the size down? I think a little bit this year, something like that, or they made it wider or deeper but narrower. I don't remember, but it was a little different from the year before, and. It was still the similar dirt, So it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it both years. There's little things about each place that you like and dislike, but
I really liked the atmosphere in Yakima.
Yes.
With the paintball and the oh man, what are they called? The goats and the peacocks.
The goats.
Just the atmosphere. It was like a camping trip with an RC track.
Yeah.
Away from town. That was always fun. The track was fun as well.
This year was pretty interesting. I don't know if you saw the weather and all that kind of stuff.
I didn't know what happened.
Oh, it was virtually snowing.
Oh wow.
It was so cold and the rain off and on, and it made it really interesting. But we got the whole race in, and it was kind of fun. The track didn't really deteriorate. There was a couple times when the rain came down a little bit heavier, and it got a little bit muddy. But for the most part, the racing conditions were really good.
It was like cabin fever without the building.
Yeah, it was cold. Cold.
That was always fun. That was fun the times that we went to Yakima. But I don't know. I mean, to pick a favorite, that's tough.
That's fair. I mean, we're really lucky, I guess, just to even have them up here. We've got a. We've been touching on this, and I think that more people are starting to see from the outside kind of just how special the Northwest is, and all the tracks we have here, and to have the series that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really complain about any of them, too. It's like, just pick a race. You're going to have a blast.
Yeah, I agree. There's obviously, every track has its ups and downs.
Totally.
I've never been a huge fan of the Spokane track for a variety of reasons, but I've always had good results there. So that's kind of a mixed bag with Spokane.
Sure.
A lot of fond memories of Wenatchee and obviously Lewiston. One track I did not care for at all was the track in Clarkston, which was just on the other side of the river from Lewiston, behind the old bowling alley. That track, we went to it, I think, twice, and it was miserable each time. Don't miss that track at all. And Pasco's good too. Pasco presents its own set of challenges, which make it fun.
I really enjoyed Pasco when it was at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Now that it's the beginning of the season, it's the weather's been questionable. Whereas I've only been there 3 times, and the first year I went, it was the last race of the season, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was perfect.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 seasons, it has been beginning race, the first race of the series, and the weather's been questionable both times. So I've kind of got that in my head that maybe I'd prefer it to be the last race of the season again. But
is there any rumor of changing the schedule up?
I don't think the club wants to do that because they feel that the turnout, the numbers will be less for the last race of the season, so they want the extra entries. And that money carries them through the season, you know.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, that's right. I'll have to cut that part out. We had listener questions.
All right.
The pictures that I posted up of you this week, I think at least one of them was a short course picture.
Oh no.
We did get some very nice gentlemen from the newly founded Flathead RC group out of Montana. I think it's up near Kalispell.
Oh wow.
So welcome guys to the Northwest. Can't wait to see how that turns out. But a couple of those guys had some questions for you.
All right.
So let's see. He wrote a big book, so give me just a minute to get to the part where your question is actually there. Okay, here it is. All right. So this is Angus Matheson. I'd like to ask Keith a question on behalf of the club Flathead RC, or at least start a discussion. Short course trucks. A lot of people seem to rag on them in the class, but our club finds them super fun. Maybe because we all are more novice. What's your take on short course truck racing, and how do you like it compared to buggy racing? And then he has a... well, I guess we can ask this towards the end, because it's kind of an everyone question. But yeah, so I guess from there, what do you have for Angus?
So, short course trucks. They're a lot of fun. Nobody will change my mind on that one. They're a lot of fun to race. They obviously don't handle as well as a buggy, so a buggy will be faster, more, I don't know how to word it exactly, but a good run with your buddies in a short course truck, there's nothing more fun. You rub fenders and you just keep racing, and they're extremely durable and fun to drive. People rag on them probably because they just don't handle as well, and the quality of racing just isn't as good from top to bottom as in a nitro buggy or any 8-scale kind of class. But if you guys like racing them, then keep racing them. It don't matter what anybody else thinks. If you guys are having fun, that's what matters. That's why we do it. I raced I think the picture that Travis was talking about, I have a Techno 4-wheel drive short course, and my buddy Jesse Munn and I raced them for a whole season, and they were a lot of fun. I have nothing bad to say about racing short course. I just preferred racing buggies, I guess.
Hell yeah.
I agree that the short course trucks are a ton of fun. But I think the stigma comes from a lot of people get into racing by racing short course trucks. It's kind of their first RC and all this. And I think what happens is the level of drivers that are on the track with short course trucks sometimes is some of the newer type drivers, and maybe the racing isn't as clean, and there's some more mistakes being made, which is understandable. And I think that's where the stigma comes from with short course. It's the same thing with like e-truggy and that kind of thing. It's you get a lot of the newer drivers or the less experienced drivers driving them, so it kind of looks a little messy out on the track. So you know, people tend to look at that a little differently sometimes. But if it wasn't for those classes, we wouldn't have as many people getting into the hobby or the sport, whichever way you look at it.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to say something on that. So if people are getting into it because of short course trucks, that's only a positive. More people into RC, means more people having fun. And if you're driving the truck and you're having fun, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. And that's, I've complained about the classes on the show and off the show as well for different reasons, but without those classes, we wouldn't have as many people getting in. So I do understand that side of it. And if, again, like Keith said, if you're having fun with it, then keep doing it, because that's what we're here for.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, they're the coolest looking ones.
That is true.
They're the most realistic looking race vehicles we have to compare to a full size counterpart. I mean,
yeah.
You look at a techno truggy. What can you draw a parallel to a full size rig?
Spaceship.
But if you look at a short course truck, it's like, Todd LeDuc drives one of these on the Lucas Oil series.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, whole reason Dad and I got into it, and oh shit, look what happened.
Yeah, sucks you in.
Yep.
Well,
I'll
come back to the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, how my dad and I got into it. My dad saw the Traxxas Stampede, and I mean, it looks just like a monster truck. And my dad bought one at a hobby shop, and I said, "Dad, where's mine?" And shoot.
I remember
spiraled out of control.
Back in the day, the Nitro Monster Truck class at the NCTs was a big thing.
Oh yeah.
Everybody raced them at all these races back in the day. I keep saying back in the day, but
oh man,
it was huge.
Like yeah.
Yep, it was huge, and it was a lot of fun if you could keep them running. But
yeah,
it was fun. Monster trucks and that sort of thing. It's popular. They look realistic, and they're just a lot of fun to get around the track.
Yeah.
To hell with gas truck. Let's bring back monster truck.
Yeah. Yep. T-Max, Savage.
Yeah.
Revo.
The Revo was far superior to any other monster truck.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was a game changer.
And then Truggies came out and outlawed everything.
Yeah.
I remember when Mugen came out with it was Mugen and I think Hot Bodies was one of the very first truggy what we ended up calling Truggies, and there was a lot of controversy between the Revo guys, and it's like there's not really a class for these quote unquote Truggies, and then they basically just took over.
Yeah, that original Hot Bodies truck came with aluminum arms and everything.
Yeah, and it worked good. I mean, there was a lot of people that ran those. I remember Mugen came out with a conversion for their buggy, and it worked, but it wasn't purpose built. It was just a Band-Aid to, oh hey, we got one too.
Yep.
And then I think Jammin' was the first one that was like, all right, we got a Truggy kit.
Yeah,
and
that was the first
kind of
serious
the
one.
first serious modern quote unquote Truggy, and it's exploded since then.
Yeah, if it wasn't for those classes, we probably wouldn't be where we are today with so many people racing and getting into the hobby. So
yeah, that's true.
Yep.
Oh yeah. All right. Charlie Adams asked. We'll come back to the last question Angus had later. Mm-hmm. The other question was Charlie Adams. Shout out to Charlie. What made you so consistently good with any car that you raced?
Man, that's a good one. I miss talking with Charlie. He's a good kid. Him and his dad are both good guys. I don't have a super good answer. My dad and I have always just I don't know. I don't have a good answer. It just comes down to preparation and the focus. You have to focus on what kind of car you're driving. Focus on where you're driving it, what track, and the preparation. Preparation is key, and just trying to do your best. I mean, it's really just I try to do my best every time I hit the track. And
Did you run much two-wheel drive on loose outdoor tracks?
drove a lot.
Yeah.
Back in the early days, when the first times we went to Wenatchee, we didn't have a nitro car or an 8 scale or a monster truck. We took our two-wheel drive buggies and two-wheel drive trucks.
I think there's a lot to be learned by driving a two-wheel drive vehicle on these outdoor loose tracks.
Yeah, I agree. They may not look as fun to drive or be as fun to drive, but it will teach you a lot.
Yeah.
And just trying to be consistent and trying to do your best. And I've heard Ryan Lutz say this before. You got to give 100% of the time.
Yeah, that's true. I think I had this big old rant before we called you up tonight about like consistency and how much it matters, and how like people kind of overlook though what it truly means and what it means as far as like mental preparation, things like that. And I there are so many. You went to Die Hard last week. You probably saw so many faces there that you've never seen before. And I want so badly to just be able to line them up around a track and watch you drive any car. Because like if I could put like that into like everything that I was saying into a run on the track, like it was pretty much every time you hit it. And like this, like, and that's why I really wanted to make sure I got Charlie's question in, because like you were, in my opinion, like you weren't like blazing fast, compared to everyone as far as lap times were. Like you still had most of the time the quickest lap times, but it's kind of like what we saw out of Kyle this year. Like it's just doing it lap after lap after lap. And that's where people just couldn't hold it.
I think where you get the idea that he wasn't, the fastest guy on the track all the time was because it looked so effortless.
Yeah, we used to joke like Keith is like the Jim Clark of RC. And if anyone's like, any Formula One fans that listen to us will understand that reference. Like it was just fast, never spectacularly fast, but the dude would
until
just
you look
kick
at the
the
lap
shit
times.
out of you. Yeah.
Until you look at lap times and he's 0.3 faster than anybody else lap time wise. Where you watch him on the track and it's like not doing anything spectacular, not doing crazy whips or anything like that. It was just completely smooth, under control. Didn't look like you were really trying that hard, but at the end of the race, it's like wow.
Yeah. Well, and I now that I think about it for a minute here, I owe a massive load of credit to Scott Brown and Chris Bridgewater. They obviously befriended me when I was very young. Still really good friends with them today. They taught me a lot about racing RC cars when I was young, and I guess I was very fortunate to almost grow. I mean, I grew up racing at TRCR, which has some of the fastest racers in the country come out of that track, and that I owe a lot to that place and to those guys for sure.
And again, running two-wheel drive a lot.
Yeah, if you can be fast with a two-wheel drive mod car, you can be fast with anything. I have no doubts about that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't go through that step to get fast anymore. It's it's kind of fallen off a little bit, where people want to jump right into the 4-wheel drives, and they skip that whole 2-wheel mod thing where it teaches you the throttle control that you really need in order to go to that next level.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with, branching out and, trying, different cars, different classes. Find what suits you. When I grew up racing, it was, and you guys have had a lot of discussions about, stock racing, and when I grew up racing, you started out novice, and excuse me, you started out novice, and then you won enough races, or Scott had the opinion of, okay, well, you're out of novice, you'll race stock, and you could race stock buggy or stock truck back then, and then you race stock, and some people were content racing stock, and then I would say majority were, when they won enough races in stock, or maybe on a Tuesday night, or the one night, let's throw a mod motor in the car and run mods, see how it is. And then some people are just like, well, screw that, I ain't doing that no more. Or some people are hooked and they just stick the mod motor in their car, and because that's 2-wheel drive mod buggy is and Nitro 8 scale are the premier classes in RC racing. Those are the pinnacles of off-road racing, at least. And everybody used to strive to go there, be there, run mod. That was the top level of of racing. And I don't know where it got lost, where so many people are content running stock, which if they're content with it, then they're content with it. That's great. It's a place for them to race. But like, I guess I'm just really old school, and I grew up racing. You just progressed, and you just ran mod, and you battled every Tuesday, every Friday, and every Sunday down at Tacoma running mod, and it was a good time.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, I think it's one of those hard things, I've been critical on one hand about, like, RC really needs to kind of move with the times, try new things, we can't keep doing the same thing forever, but at the same time, like, I'm also with you where it's like, I don't, I really hate to see, in my opinion, what some of those classes have kind of turned into.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, and I guess what it always comes back into is that, like, RC is a place for people from all walks of life with all different kinds of ideas of fun to come together, and I guess that's kind of what it is at the end of the day. So it's like, I can't complain too much.
Sure.
At the end of the day, we have racers, so I can't really bitch about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more than a lot of places can say, so there's always that, which actually brings me into a question that I wanted to ask. So compared to drag racing, right, we've talked about, your sort of transition back to, what you're most familiar with. People, as like to kind of compare RC to a lot of different motorsports. When it comes up that, oh, we should try this, and people say, well, it's not like that in other motorsports, and they give excuses, or when someone gives a reason why we can't do something, people say, oh, it's been tried in this motorsport. So with things like that, right, and your time in drag racing, what do you think the biggest thing you see in drag racing that you would really like to see implemented in RC? Like, if you could just have, like, a wish item, what do you think it would be?
It's funny. Brett and Brenda Wilson came over to my new house a couple of weeks ago, and we chatted a lot about, what are some things we could try, or, what do we got to do to, take another step. And primarily what they're doing is what we focused on. And, we talked about various different things, but one thing that, I kept bringing up during that discussion with them is, like, how do we improve the show? how do we sell tickets to to an RC race? It's pretty normal for somebody to come to like a big race and never seeing an RC car drive around a track and be amazed by it. How do we improve the show to where we can keep spectators involved? And drag racing is interesting because it's relatively short and there's a lot of downtime. We as drag racers kind of joke a lot, why do they call it a drag race? And because it's a drag. And, it can be long days with not a lot of time on the track. Or long days in the stands with, lots of downtime. But, really exciting moments here and there. So I think in RC, I would love to see more spectators see it. I think that would help the hobby even more, and it would grow. There's obviously some challenges with growing the hobby as well. We see at the big races where there's 900 entries, it can be kind of a draining experience. But and make it kind of like the pro drivers, like put their personalities out there, and like at the big races, at the big drag races, the pro drivers have like cards and they do like autograph sessions, and can we turn it into that? Same thing with NASCAR and even motocross. How can we put the stars of the sport, if you will, kind of, I don't want to say on a pedestal, but kind of that same kind of concept, like people buy a Ryan Letts T-shirt or a Jared Tewa T-shirt and get their autograph from their favorite driver and root for them at the at the Worlds or the Nationals or the Silver State or whatever whatever big race. That's one thing I would love to see. I'm not a creative mind. I just don't know how you could accomplish it.
I like the idea of the T-shirts. I like that.
or having a poster, with their car and their face on it, and really make get their personalities out there.
Right. Yep. No, I like that. I think that's something that RCGP has kind of attempted to do. It was, with the interviews and all that kind of stuff with the pro drivers, and that's something that I think we're kind of missing out on for sure.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And maybe I'm wrong.
Who's going to be the first Who's going to be the first to have a T-shirt or posters with their face on it that they're giving away or selling, whatever, and signing them? Who's going to be the first?
But it's true though. Like it's a really good point, and that's like you touched on. RCGP did a really good job of trying to make it commercial, and trying to give it presentation value. Yeah. That's what RC racing largely doesn't have. Like you said, a lot of people show up, go to tracks, and see a car go around a track and are just, their minds are blown. Like they couldn't imagine anything like this before, right? And then it kind of just, a lot of people, it just kind of ends there. Or if they get into racing, cool, then they're part of it. But there's going to be people who like it that never get into it. And that, I always talk like RCGP, has done a really good job of that. Die Hard kind of had something similar at that GE2 event we did at CenturyLink a couple years ago. I think that was a good example of, adding presentation value to a race. But if RC really wants to kind of expand and kind of, I think, hit that point, it's gotta appeal to the people who can't race. It's gotta appeal to the people who just enjoy it for what it is. And yeah, I think that would be absolutely killer, because then it would add, it's kind of, I guess, a weird way to put it, but it would add a speck of legitimacy to kind of what we're doing every weekend, and there's something about your hobby and getting immersed in the culture behind it.
Yeah, I think I think there's a case to put, RC racing on TV. It's just who's gonna front it? How do you get it out there?
Yeah, you see that with the drone racing on TV. They've kind of put the personalities to the pilot as well.
Right.
I think that's where a lot of that entertainment value comes from, right? Like, but the thing about that's really cool is, like, I don't know if you got to see any of it, Keith, but we had a panning camera at the last Die Hard race, courtesy of Colin Taylor, and the feed coming through Live RC and everything, and that proved right there that it doesn't need to be the Worlds or some big race or anything for the racing to be interesting. That was some of the most kick-ass racing I've ever watched, and it was a club race. And it had production value to it. You could have shown that to anyone, and they would have, been all excited in it.
Yeah.
And that's what more people need to start doing, is kind of thinking about, well, how can we make it visually pleasing to people, and, that there's going to have to be format changes that kind of come with that, but even just doing that with, like, some of the mains, it was hugely successful. So, no, I'm 100% with you. I would love to see anything like that, even remotely sprout up.
Something that goes along with the awesome videos that are being taken at Die Hard now. More people need to share them.
Yeah,
I don't think I've seen anybody share them. I shared one. I don't think I've seen anybody else share the videos that are posted, and it's just a matter of clicking on it and hitting share. Go directly to the video you want to watch, because they're at the bottom of each of the results sheets, and click on the one that you think is the most exciting and share it, and a lot of people will get to watch it.
Yeah,
no, pretty cool.
The downside with that, it's not really a downside. I shouldn't say that. Is it would be helpful, but is that the right platform to go about it? I'm not so sure. But
sure.
Because there's so much being shared on social media, and it's hard to see everything. But if you said there was one share. If there's 2 shares, then, maybe 6 people see it instead of 3. Or, if 10 people share it, maybe 100 people see it. I don't know. I think it needs to be more in a more concise like delivery method than just, splatter on social media. But
it's so hard to get people to see things on Facebook. Like, it's, you really have to, look at your time of day and the content and everything else. I mean, like, just us as a page, like, just recently, like, I had to start running, like, really, even just, like, cheap, like, $6 ads on our page, just so the people who follow our page can even see it.
Wow.
Like, that's the hard part. Is that social media makes it hard, because for most people's, like, feeds and stuff like that, they're so saturated. It's it's hard to reach people that way.
Yeah, but are you reaching your full potential? Maybe not, but if 100 people see it, that's 100 more than none.
Which is also true. That's a good point. Oh, cool. So let me ask this last question from Angus. So also, do you guys as a whole have any tips on creating / starting clubs, details about starting and making clubs successful? We want to build something and keep it around here. So the first thing I want to say in response to that is talk to Brett and Brenda at Die Hard. I think that's my answer. They have something cooking there.
I will second that.
Colin, you got anything to add to that?
Well, I'm just looking at some of these videos and some of the amount of shares or watches they've gotten. It ranges anywhere from 7 to like 50 views.
Okay.
And the one that I shared is 159. That's one person sharing one video. 3 times, more than 3 times as many views.
Mm-hmm.
So if more people shared them, more people would see them.
I agree. Yeah.
Fair point.
Just a little something, you know, to throw that one out there.
Yeah, I suppose in hindsight, I probably should have shared those from the page, but
yeah, I think that's something we should put out to everybody to share these videos. Because you look at Ryan Lutz's video that he posted, was it a couple weeks ago? It got over 1 million views.
Jeez.
Wow,
that was so cool.
Yeah, so you never know, you know, who's going to see it. You never know who's going to see it.
That's very true.
So, you know, it's very simple and easy for us to do, is to share some of the stuff and you know, make it more accessible. Show more people what we do.
Yeah, I think especially showing what you guys got going at Die Hard. I mean, that's just it's nothing short of amazing what you all got going on there. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, they've done such an amazing job, and we talk about it every single episode.
Yeah,
how awesome it is, and it's hard to put into words how incredible the whole community is, the whole Die Hard community. We love it.
Yeah.
It's amazing for sure.
Yeah, in terms of starting a club, if you have a group of people that share a common interest, I mean, just keep that common interest in mind and keep it fun. Remember why you started getting into RC cars, and you know, just try to remember to have fun. Driving RC cars is always fun, and you know, don't let, you know, one bad day ruin it, or one bad, you know, timeout or one bad moment, you know, ruin it for everybody. You know, there's always tomorrow and always the next run or the next hangout or, you know, or the next race. You know, just remember to have a good time.
Right, exactly. That's, you know, it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Let's keep it fun.
For me, like, the whole club thing is like, you gotta have people who are dedicated kind of long term, because what happens a lot of times is like people get in it and they're really gung ho about it for a little while, and then they get kind of burnt out, and you see clubs kind of cycle through people sometimes because of that, where like someone like has all these ideas and wants to put all this effort in, and that's fine, but then they kind of like get in there and they're like, damn, this kind of takes away from my, you know, racing experience. Maybe I don't want to do this anymore. And maybe racing's not fun for me anymore. So, and I guess I could go along with anything that could go with racing, crawling, you know, planes, whatever you do. You just gotta. I think that you want to start something awesome. You want to grow the RC scene where you are. That's great. I think personally, though, you need to really think about if you want to do it or not. And, you know, are you willing to kind of put the time and effort in? Just because, like, I think we've all been there, you know, to some degree or another, you know. I think the most recent, you know, for me and, you know, Keith and I was, you know, the start of Die Hard. You know, we weren't really calling any shots there, but we were helping, and that's still, you know, that's still a lot of involvement, you know, that's still a lot of work. And so, a lot of long nights, you know, so I think that's the word of caution, is like, do it, but caution, and, you know, don't be aware of, if, you know, the point where you're kind of over it, and don't burn yourself out.
And Keith, you were part of the Rugrats crew, and did a lot of the setup and all that stuff for Die Hard too, didn't you?
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I remember when the announcement came that Mike's RC World was closing, and it came as such a shock, because when I moved back home from college at the end of very, very tail end of 2014, Jesse Munn and Sam and, you know, Travis and, you know, a whole bunch of you guys a lot of the people that race at Die Hard today were up racing at Mike's, and they would pull 150 entries for a Saturday race, and it was incredible. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, we're closing down, not racing anymore. It was like, well, that's a bummer. Where are we going to race in the winter? And I remember talking to Brett. I met Brett up at Mike's RC World one time. I met Tyler up there, and I remember we were at Cabin Fever in 2015. So a couple months into 2015, and I really got to know Brett and Tyler and Jason Cocking and some of those guys that I hadn't really met before, because I raced down in Tacoma. I didn't race up north way back when, and I remember asking Brett, I was like, I mean, what are we going to do? And he's like, oh, we're going to have a place to race if I have anything to say about it. And I was like, oh. And there was a time when Brett was going to take over Mike's RC World, and I don't know if he was going to change the name or not, but he was going to do a lot of repairs to the building and and just basically continue like it was, but that presented a huge amount of challenge for him and Brenda, and so they didn't end up going that route, and they saw there was a track over in New York, I believe. This club's doing a temporary turf track, and Brett had that idea, and then we heard the announcement that Worlds was going to be run on turf, and it's like, well, why don't we just try doing turf and do a traveling series? And there was a lot of adult beverages consumed over at Brett's house during the week, and a lot of ideas thrown around, and Die Hard RC was kind of formed back then. And Brett had a lot of ideas that were just out of this world, and a lot of them were good and a lot of them weren't, and we let him know about it. And I was part of the very beginning at Die Hard, and that was some of the best times for sure.
Seems like an eternity ago now. I guess it has been 4 years, but yeah. End of 2015, we got into it, and I think, I don't know if any of us, we knew it was going to work, but I don't think any of us kind of really could have predicted it was going to go the way it has.
No, I remember the very first race, we had 55, 53 entries, I think, and shoot, we had Taylor Wonders, Austin Azure, I don't remember if Randy Sides came to that first race or not. Harley Yoshi came up. John Valencia was there. There was a lot of people that we didn't really expect to show up, and it was amazing. It was a lot of work. Oh man, those first few races, setting up that really heavy turf, it was brutal. And
that stuff was so heavy.
You have no idea. And I remember the first race they got 100 entries, and it was just like they were over the moon. And then now, earlier, 2 races ago, they had 200 entries for a one-day race on a temporary carpet track in the gym.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's
awesome.
Yeah, it's super cool. Obviously something's really working in the formula they have to bring so many racers here, and I think that's the thing is so many new people, like I touched on earlier, so many people that have just picked up a car and started going, that didn't come from other RC tracks or anything like that, but they just homegrew racers,
right?
I
don't know how they're drawing those people. I don't know how they're drawing those people, to the track. But
yeah,
whatever they're doing, it's working. It's amazing. We had conversations of at Brett's house before we even started racing at Die Hard, and it's like, man, is this gonna work? Are we crazy? I remember I had to ask him. I was like, dude, what are we gonna do for a driver's stand? We'll have to figure that out, huh? Like, how are we gonna get this to the track? How are we gonna, where are we gonna put all this stuff? What are the jumps gonna look like? What's the pipe gonna look like? How are we gonna hold the pipe down? Oh man, so many ideas, so many trials and tribulations, and it's just amazing how it's turned out for them. And I hope it just keeps soaring upward.
Oh, same here.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. 30 plus years doing this, I've never seen anything like it.
I haven't either.
No, it's. I mean, we talk about it almost every week, and for good reason. I think that it's just there's a community formula that's working. I mean, and you know how Brenda is. Brenda's so good at connecting with people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been pretty cool, and I complain a lot that places which obviously it's a business, I get it, but I complain that places like Live RC and other media outlets just don't cover what we're doing here. And the thing is like, and people get confused and they're like, well, is that really going to bring more exposure and help the track out? And it's not about that. It's that tracks that are struggling, places like, let's say, let's Flathead over in Montana that's just getting started. People need to see this as a template. People need to see what these people are doing, because they said they didn't pull most of their racers from anywhere. People just started showing up, and that's the thing that a lot of people have trouble with is at certain tracks. It's like, how are we gonna continue to grow the hobby? How are we gonna get new racers? Oh, we aren't getting new racers anymore. And there's a lot of things that contribute to that, but people need to see what's happening here as a template for building and for really making their local scene thrive, because so much has to go into it away from the track, and I think that's what people miss sometimes.
Going back to what you said about the Live RC thing and not covering what we're doing, well, these news sites only cover the stuff that people send in to them. And that might be something where we're missing a little bit, where we need to send in. Really?
Yeah, so I'll say it right now. So Keenan and I had a big old rant about this before last week's show, but I tried on multiple occasions to reach out to Live RC. And before it was for SOR stuff, we had we had a good cabin fever one year, and I wanted to put something in there. And then I tried doing it for Die Hard 2. And both times the emails that I got back were their price list for advertising, and that was it. They're like, wow. Hey, this is what you're looking for with a link. I'm like, oh, thanks, Aaron.
Oh, so, well, Aaron, that was a while ago.
Yeah, but the issue is that the impression I get from the people there now is kind of the same. I mean, it's paid content. I get it. It's a business. The things that people send to them, they're paying for also. So they're not going to do, unless it's, Garrison's opinion piece, they're not going to do a heartfelt, oh, look at how awesome the things are happening over here. No, I mean, the opinion piece is going to go on about what's wrong with the hobby, and then after that, it's, it's back to paid content.
Okay,
so we can try again, but when I went through it, I was pretty discouraged.
I've sent stuff to Mike before, and it's gotten published. And anytime, even the Racetown PDX last weekend with 80 entries got posted. So I think it's just a matter of sending it to the right people.
Maybe so. I guess it kind of comes down to whose press release was that also. Was that Yokomo's? Was that...
Oh, I'm sure.
Associated's?
I'm pretty sure it was Joe. Joe sent it to him, which I'm sure he has some pull.
I'm not saying it's not worth a try, but I'm saying that's been my issue, where it's we did try things like that, and that's just kind of the way the media has gravitated. And like I said, I get it. It's a business for them. You got to make money somewhere. But I feel like just once, because we've definitely mentioned it enough, and the rest of the country, I think, from the people, at least in the areas from people where they're talking about it, like Keenan's a great example. He talks about it almost every week. People know about it where it's being talked about. That's the thing, but I want it to be really seen as a template going forward.
But is that the right outlet?
I don't know.
That's a fair point as well. I mean,
that's true.
I mean, how many hits does a Mike Garrison post get on Live RC? Just from Live RC viewing, not linked on Facebook or linked on Instagram or linked on Red RC or wherever. Compared to like how many hits the Die Hard RC page on Facebook gets on a daily basis. Like,
no, that's true.
Maybe Live RC is a very well-known name and it's great, and then their coverage of events is amazing, and could they cover more? Maybe, probably, but like you said, it's a business, and it costs money to do that. Maybe that's not. Maybe Live RC itself isn't the best outlet, but maybe that's just my opinion.
Which that's a perfectly fair point to make. I guess there's something to be said that isn't necessary. Maybe not. But I think that it's just, to me, it's almost that it's ironic that people talk about how RC is struggling and how tracks can't survive anymore and things like that, and then these people came out essentially out of nowhere, completely dug their own path, and it's thriving because they went out to, they set out to do something no one had ever done before and reach out in a way that nobody had. And so that's what I mean. Like, I just, I guess end of the day, however which way, just to get the word out there to other people to keep the scene strong. Because it's like, it's not necessarily for Die Hard's benefit, because what are they going to do? How is Die Hard going to benefit from people on the East Coast figuring out about him? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Obviously that has no correlation, but the Die Hard has a lot to offer other people, other businesses, and that's something that I've been trying to push for.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have, obviously what they're doing is working. Why not get that story? Why not get that story to the East Coast or to other parts of the world? I agree. Their story needs to be, what they're doing needs to be shared with the world, not for their benefit, but for the RC industry's benefit. And
exactly,
finding the right outlet is the key to that, to unlocking that problem.
Yeah, no, 100%. I completely agree with you.
So we never really talked about why you stepped away from RC, Keith. Is there anything, if it was any different, would that have changed the outcome?
So I stepped away twice. Which one do you want to talk about, or which one are you referring to? The
first time you stepped away to go to school. So that's pretty self-explanatory.
Yes and no. I went to school. I went to finish my 4-year degree in 2012. I stopped racing in 2009, 2010. Just mainly because I was burnt out. I mean, I raced at TRCR 3 times a week for months and months and months, and it was a lot of fun, but it got to the point where it was just, all right, maybe it's time for me to step away. And coincidentally enough, I got into drag racing at the same time. And then I went to school, and then I dropped out of everything because I lived on the other side of the state. But this time, I mean, so in 2017, there was a point, it was, like I've said, I've been pretty vocal. What I was putting in and what I was getting out didn't match up.
Right.
Driving RC cars are super fun, and I will say that forever. But the long road trips, the late nights, lack of sleep, the not having a drink all weekend and feeling like you're hungover on Monday, gets old. There was a lot of fun times, a lot of fun stories. Travis and I could talk for hours about stories, which I think we should share some.
Yes, but, please do.
But I think it just the time I had to put in, the money I had to put in, and I didn't have a lot of sponsors. I had 2 primary sponsors. I had Techno and AKA, and I had pretty good deals, and yeah, I still spent a lot of money, and it was all for a piece of plastic. Was the reward I got, and I kind of lost touch of. It didn't become fun anymore, and it was more like a job, more like work, and it was, I'm just putting all this money in and not getting a lot out. And if anything was different, I think, it's hard to say. A number of things, if I would like to see money come in, but I know that presents, in terms of prize money, I know that presents, its own set of challenges with, how races are handled and, fairness and all that good stuff. But that would have helped me get back into it. I think, I don't know if I said this, but I mean, the first race I went to was in 1999, so 20 years ago. So I've been around the block a few times with RC when it comes to RC, and sometimes it's just nice to take a break. But I don't know if there's a whole lot that could be changed or could be different. For me to have kept on and staying with RC, it's a lot of work to compete, and it's all about preparation and trying to do your best. Obviously, you want to go and win, and if you're putting all the time in and all the effort and the money in, why put any effort in if you're not going to put all the effort in to do your best and try to win.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think most people, no matter their level of success, with the exception of if they're getting paid or not, kind of reach a point where you just kind of have to take a minute. That minute might take a couple months, that might be 4 years. It just varies. But I think a lot of people just kind of have to continue to enjoy it and reflect on it positively. Sometimes you have to step away.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is moving to continue going the way you were, it would had to have been in some sort of professional role with a paycheck and that kind of thing, and you were just at the point where you've done everything you can do as far as a hobby side of it, and you were burnt out and that kind of thing.
I think it's a combination. I don't necessarily want it. I didn't want it to turn into a job where I was, relying on RC to pay the bills, but getting some kickback for what I was putting in terms of money would be nice. But I understand, that obviously that comes with its own set of challenges. And honestly, I mean, it's kind of on me as well. I lost sight of, the fun. The fun went out for me, and I think that's more on me than anybody else or anything else.
Sure.
Just in my world, in my head, the fun kind of escaped me, and it was like, okay. It was sometime in 2017, and I remember I told Jesse, I was like, I'm committed to the end of 2017, and then I'm going to take a break. and I put all the effort in and for the summer season events of 2017. Then I was like, all right, I'm working on the drag car now.
Yeah.
It's funny because I kind of was the same way near the end of this season, Nitro season. I had put a lot into it this year and last year, but this year especially, and I was kind of burnt out, and and I had to do a mental reset. And while I didn't completely walk away, I'm still racing. It was nice to change disciplines and change tracks and go indoors with the carpet racing, and I'm really having a good time with it. And I think I achieved what I set out to achieve this year, and for the future, for me, the results aren't going to matter at this point anymore. I don't care if I lose the race on the last lap. I don't care anymore. I'm coming off the stand and high fives with the guys that I was racing with, and get to do it again in a couple weeks.
Right.
And that's kind of where I'm at with it right now. And I'm just, I understand the feeling and the effort that goes into it and how much work it is. So I completely get that.
Yeah. And I think I've grown a lot personally since the end of 2017 to today. And, thinking about really thinking about racing RC cars. I mean, it could be a lot worse. Like,
true.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun, and there were times where it was incredibly frustrating. But I mean, I woke up the next day and it was a different day.
That's right.
And RC cars are awesome. They're a ton of fun. They're, I guess, for me personally, they're not the only thing that's fun, and it's hard to drag race and RC race. But
I think I think you need a 4x4 short course, and that's it.
Yeah.
Come out and race Burlington 4x4 short course.
It might not be the greatest idea, but it would be fun. It would be fun. It would be fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm flat out of questions.
Should we have a story time?
Yes, we need to have a story.
Story time.
Oh man. So Lewiston was always famous for his good stories. I've been told this story so many times, and I can't say it because I wasn't there, but he's gonna give me a hard time for saying this, but I wish I could have been there to see Sam Moss throwing perfectly good beers against the rock wall at the Lewiston track at Cabin Fever in complete
Sam.
like tired frustration. I would pay a lot of money to go back in time just to be like a fly on the wall of that moment. But yeah, Lewiston was always good. Lewiston was always good for good stories. You'll have to ask him about that one.
I think we might have to have Sam on the show to tell this story.
I don't think Sam would be the greatest one to tell that story. I think Jesse Munn would be the best one to tell the story.
Jesse's another one we need to have on.
A lot of good stories with him and Brian and his brother and Jesse's brother Jake. But
Le Mans are something else.
Yeah, good bunch.
Yep.
But stories. Travis, you got a good one on the top of your head?
Well, we spoke about Lewiston, so
I think that was the first race that you traveled with us. Was
it was 2015.
15? Yeah.
Yep. It was so. I think it was that weekend. So we had this staple where we would kind of go to like Mexican restaurants.
That hasn't changed.
Yeah.
I guess that hasn't changed. But it was, that's for sure. It has to stay, right? So Jesse Munn, super funny guy that anyone that knows him, and I mean the whole Munn family. But he was talking one day about, on our way to Lewiston, about how, Mexican restaurants kind of always have these funny names, and, it's always like some, L or La and some random object. And he's like, so we just heard about this, this Mexican restaurant, down the way in Lewiston. It was on the road, and we were going to meet a bunch of people there.
I think Joe Scales was the head of that.
Yeah, go
head
figure,
of that,
right?
Like going, oh yeah, we're going to Mexican. Just take a right on the main road out of the track, and you'll find it.
Yep. Yeah, that was pretty typical for for Scales. He just kind of calls out where it's going to be, and then if people show up or not. So
usually they do.
Yeah, usually they do. So Jesse is like, watch, like that is exactly what it's going to be this time. Sure as shit. We drive over there, and there's this big-ass neon sign that says El Sombrero. Doubled up on Holiday Hangover. There was, when we went to the first Holiday Hangover, Keith wasn't there, unfortunately, but I did make sure to message him about this, where we went to that same one, or we went to a Mexican restaurant there close to the track, kind of on the main drag in Moses Lake, and I'm pretty sure it was called Los Zapatos, meaning the shoes.
I thought it was El Rodeo.
El Rodeo, I think.
Yeah. I have seen a Los Zapatos, though. I don't remember where, but yeah, it was El Rodeo.
But, what's even funnier about the El Rodeo is there's an El Rodeo. I think the same family owns it in Cheney, where I went to college. And we went there all the time. What is El Rodeo? The ranch?
The rodeo, isn't it?
Is it? It could. I'm not a Spanish expert. Jesse, have Jesse type in the comments what
Jesse probably knows offhand, anyways. Yeah. That was like the first. That was the first one that you like kind of set the tone with traveling for those guys. Was the hat.
The hat.
So every time we went to Lewiston, it was the hat.
Well, and you had to be in the truck, cause like Sam was driving his truck, Travis and I are sitting in the back, and Jesse's sitting in the passenger seat. And when he, we're pulling out, he pulls out of the track, and we're just driving down the road, and we don't know what the place is called, and Jesse's like, oh, it's probably L something, and just being sarcastic, and not like 5 seconds later, the look on his face, and he's just, there it is. El Sombrero. Oh, that's the Mexican place. That's gotta be it. The neon signs and everything. Oh, it's a funny story. It's more of a, you had to be there to see the look on Jesse's face. But I think that spawned on, we ended up, I think Jesse downloaded like a translator app, and it was, what is this? It's in Spanish, for an hour on the way home.
Yeah.
Was that the same trip that Jesse was? Was that the same trip that Jesse was building his truggy in the back of the truck?
It was, yeah. Jesse, the whole ride over, Jesse was riding in the back, and he was building his Kyosho truggy the whole way there with like the kit box in front of him, like on his legs, trying to like fit in him trying to build this giant thing.
Yeah.
With no bench or anything to work on, dropping shit all over the floor.
Oh, yeah. There was a couple screws I think he never found either.
Yeah. It showed up still missing stuff.
Yeah. We were going to Cabin Fever in 2017, and the pass was closed, and so we drove to Portland and then drove across I-84. And we were in this podunk town, middle of nowhere, and Sam gets pulled over.
Oh,
middle of the night.
That's right.
Middle of the night, gets pulled over, and it could have ended badly. Let's just leave it at that. And it didn't, and we made it to the race. I don't even remember if Sam got a ticket, but
no,
I think the speed limit dropped like suddenly through this town to like 55, and he was doing 65, and cop popped him. I mean, it was just like Pomeroy, Washington. Like, apologize if you're from Pomeroy, but it was you blink and you missed it. But we
sheer
get pulled
luck
over.
that there was even a cop out there.
Yeah, and so that was another one from Lewiston. Jeez.
That was a clincher moment. Yeah, that set the tone for that weekend. But that was, I was like, oh boy, it's Lewiston again.
Yeah.
No, we had some good ones from there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, now that like I'm trying to go back and think of like I'm drawing a blank on most of them, but every year we had something.
Yeah, Lewiston was always famous for good stories.
Was Woody there?
No, but there's some Woody stories from Lewiston that I wasn't a part of. I think, and Jesse Munn is another one. Maybe you should have had Jesse on the show rather than me, but at least for this part of it. But so, like, I don't remember who was all in their room, but it was at least Sam, Jesse, and Woody. And Woody is Woody, and everybody loves him, and he has such a good time all the time. And Jesse is like Mr. Serious, and it's like you always give Woody a hard time about making sure your stuff's ready and focus on racing and this and that, and that's just not Woody's personality. And so this particular weekend it was the Lewiston NCT, I'm pretty sure, and Woody was all like focused and he was ready to go and had all his stuff ready, and I don't remember if it was Friday night or Saturday night. He was like, I'm going to go out to the bar with the guys for just one drink. And Jesse was like, dude, what happened to like focusing on, what happened to the program? He was like, just one beer. It'll be fine. I think it was 2:00 in the morning. They get a knock on the hotel door, and I think it was Nate Clark. I could be wrong. It was either Nate or could have been Adam Bennett, maybe. I can't remember who it was, but he just said, I'm sorry, and then walked away and had Woody with him. And Woody just flops down on the bed, and his back is covered in vomit. And it's 2:00 in the morning, and Jesse and Sam were just pissed off to no end, and all Woody could say was just, I'm sorry. I love you guys. And then he like falls between the end, the one bed was close to the wall with the window and the HVAC control unit thing. Mm-hmm. He like falls into that like space, and Sam and Jesse just left him. He was like, he can figure it out on his own. I'm pretty sure that was in Lewiston.
Oh man, I was gonna tell a story about Woody, but I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna add to that mess.
There was another good Woody story that I will save for another time. I don't think it's appropriate to pick on Woody anymore.
No. We
what
love
about
you, Woody.
Dude? Great dude, really unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah. He kept arguing. How could it be my puke? It's on my back. How could it be mine? Well, it turns out he was riding in somebody's truck. Leaned out the door, puked on the ground, and then whoever was driving the truck kicked him out, and he rolled around in his own puke, I guess, is how what ended up happening.
Oh, Woody. God.
Bless his heart.
We love Woody.
Yeah, Woody's awesome.
Yeah.
So outside of my burnout in the Walla Walla hotel parking lot, do you have any good NCT stories or Northwest racing stories, Colin?
Oh, regarding you? No, not really.
Oh. Well, I mean, that's a good story. I mean, doing a burnout in a Ford Escort.
It was.
That was so funny.
That was awesome. We were sitting outside. We had the barbecue going on right on the sidewalk outside our door.
Yeah, really, just the environment. Like, we had just gotten there from like a Jackson's or something, buying a case of Rolling Rock because like the rule was you always had to buy cheap beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like the cough syrup cost more than the pack of Rolling Rock did.
Yeah.
drive a quarter mile down the road to this really janky ass Red Lion or whatever it was. We stayed in the Red Lion one year that was pretty bad. I can't remember if it was the same one. But and then show up, do a burnout. You guys are cooking burgers on the hotel deck.
Hey,
what's up, guys?
it was pretty late too. I mean, it was well after dark.
It was still like 85 degrees though. It was hot.
It was hot.
It was hot. So we were just sitting outside enjoying it. And, we were actually making tacos. I think we were cooking the chicken for the tacos. I think is what we were doing, if I remember correctly. That was
sounds good to me.
That's always something that I'm kind of into, is just doing weird shit like that and enjoying the moment, and watching the people walk by outside on the street
while you're cooking chicken for tacos on your hotel balcony.
Well, it was ground floor, so it was right there.
That's true. Easy access.
Yeah, it was a hotel where the door to your room was on the was on the outside. You didn't walk into the hotel to go to your room.
Yeah, it was right outside. It was a classy joint.
Parking lot.
Yeah, and that was after we went for a swim in the pool.
Oh, you're brave.
We had gone for a swim in the pool. Oh yeah, and as soon as a female strips down to her bathing suit, there's always people that want to come and sit by the pool, of course.
Surprised you didn't get MRSA from the pool.
Oh, man. Yep, that was a good trip. That was a fun one.
What year was that? Was that 2017?
I think it was.
Yeah, it had to be.
Yeah,
it
was.
I drove myself. I
That's
drove over.
right.
I think I worked like a half day on Friday and then drove myself. And then I don't think I practiced on Friday.
No.
I think I just hung out and glued tires, I think. And
that sounds right.
And then,
yeah.
Who knows? I think you and Jesse. I don't think Sam went that year. I think it was just you and Jesse rode over in his car. And
yeah, that's right. Yeah, we went over. Yeah, we went over in his car. Sam couldn't make it. Oh shit. So I didn't realize how much I had forgotten over like the past couple years of those races.
Yeah, there's so much stuff I've forgotten
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too funny.
Yeah, Wildy had a good laugh about. I remember Wildy telling me about this. I'm pretty sure Travis, you were there as well. It was a 2017 Hank Perry, and I flamed out around the first corner of the Nitro Main, and I'm yelling at you, and you run to get the car, but then you drop the starter box, and there's like three people. Somebody grabbing the starter box, you trying to grab the car and the starter box, and I remember Justin was just laughing hysterically about that whole situation after months down the road. But that was a good moment.
I'd suppressed that.
Yeah. I tried to as well, and then I watched the video that Walters posted a few days ago of that main, and was like, oh, that didn't end up very well. Or it didn't start very well. I ended up finishing second, but
yeah, I was going to ask you, did you end up winning it?
No. Taylor Peterson was there, so it was a race for second.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you feel now that you're no longer racing the NCTs? How do you feel about companies sending some of these paid pros up to race our NCTs up here?
I have always been a firm believer of you're only as fast as your competition.
Yep.
And if you're not striving to improve, then you should be. So, bringing these, paid drivers, these pros like, Adam Drake and Ryan Lutz and, those type guys up to our races, I think it's good. It gets you know, and there's not a lot of big pressure at a big race. You know, I just feel like they're probably more approachable and you can get to know them a little bit more, which is always good. Some of those big races, you know, it can be pretty tense around where all those guys are pitting. You know, and they take it seriously, as they should. But you know, if we set the bar higher for, you know, our community, if you will, in the Northwest, you know, we'll all get better.
Right. I agree.
So that's how I've always felt about, you know, it you know, it may not you know, sound like a good idea. You know, it's you know, it's like, man, you know, thinking to yourself like, man, I can't hang with Ryan Lutz or Adam Drake, but, you know, what if I try really hard? You know, what could happen?
Yep. That's right.
That's a good point.
Yep. Yep. There was one. Drake was up at the, what was it, Holiday Hangover or Fallout one year? Not talking about this year, but previous years. He was up once before.
He went to the second year's Hangover.
Right. I had one qualifier where I actually was on the same lap. I think I was like 10 seconds behind him or something in one qualifier. And for me, that was a really big win for me.
Yeah.
To be that close to somebody that's so fast, you know. So it's kind of cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's been other people I've seen that have had moments like that at certain races, and it really is a big, it's kind of a pick me up, and it's like, hey, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of moment, you know, and it motivates you to try harder and put more work in, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You know, you're only as fast as your competition, and if your competition is faster than you, you're going to improve. I mean, it's going to happen. Yep,
I agree. And I like how some of them actually give back and do something while they're here instead of just racing, take a trophy home.
Right.
You know,
yeah,
like,
they've been doing the driver clinics or
yep,
you know, setup help and things like that.
Yeah, and you get people like Kyle and Kenny Johnson that come up, and you know, they're always doing something, sponsoring the race, or you know, have prizes to give away through their sponsors and this kind of stuff, and they're always really easily approachable and that kind of stuff, and you know, we need more of that as well, instead of people just flying in taking a trophy home.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's cool. I like to see more and more people, and Mason Epley is a really good example.
Yeah, he's a cool kid. I like
super great kid. He's awesome. He Travis, you know.
Oh yeah.
He signed that body that I gave you, and that was super cool.
Yeah, that meant a lot to have him do that for me. It was pretty cool. We had a lot of good conversations after that was done, and yeah, I wish him nothing but luck in his military journey.
Yeah.
I think he's out in just a couple weeks, so no, I hope that all goes really well for him.
Yeah, I do too. Wow, that's cool. I didn't know he went in the military.
Yeah, he's leaving for Air Force Basic sometime this month.
Oh wow.
Yeah, same thing you were doing.
Yep. Hopefully it goes a lot better for him than it did me, so.
Well, you gave it your best shot.
Yeah, it was cool. But I'm back racing, I can't complain, so I'll take it.
Yeah, we're not complaining about having you back.
But there was, I guess it's kind of not much of a story, but like kind of touching on like, I think a really cool experience. One of the last ones we had before, you know, Keith and I kind of both stepped away sort of at the same time at the end of 2017. We went to Electric Nationals that year, and it was a bummer. Kind of talking sort of, you know, back on what you were going on about, Colin. You know, Keith, Jesse, and I were all in the B main for e-buggy, and Keith unfortunately DNF'd. I think like a screw back out.
Yeah, out drive on the rear diff pinion.
Yeah, just something super simple, right? But like, how do you finish that race? Like all three of us, we would have finished on the same lap as a couple guys in that race that like Tanner Denny, Adam Drake. I think CJ might have been in that one, like a bunch of those guys. And that was super cool for us to like go down to A main and do that. And it's that when you get kind of that close and you have a moment of like, oh man, like you can kind of actually gauge it. It's pretty cool and motivating to kind of see where you're at, but also equally frustrating because you're like, damn, like I put all this work in, and it's like still come down here and like lose to people I don't even know.
Yeah,
But
that's like
it's still pretty cool.
that run that I had that I was on the same lap as Drake. It was my best run of the weekend, and it was almost like mistake free, and it was by far my best run of the weekend, and I was still that far behind him. So, yeah,
It's crazy. Yeah, no, I mean it's it's their bread and butter, and it shows.
yeah.
It's nuts.
I'll never forget a race. We went to the RC Pro Series. This was in 2006. RC Pro Series race down in Canby at Pat's Acres. That's another track that kind of holds a special place for me. As I got my first NCT 8-scale win at that track.
I saw my first race there. That was a cool place. I'm sad I never got to race on it.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. That track used to be just completely, feet of water over that whole property every winter. It was pretty brutal. One year the driver's stand was completely tipped over and floated away. But I'll never forget a RC Pro Series race. 2006. So like Chad Bradley was a star, and Michael Sharwin, and I don't think Billy Easton was there, but Marty Korn, and I'm trying to think of some of the other big names. Tyler Vick, and a lot of they were the top guys back then. And I ended up TQing the first round of 8-scale buggy over all those guys, and I was on cloud 9. I was like, whoa, I could do this. I could hang with these guys. I didn't end up winning. I think I had a mechanical failure in the main, but it was wow, this is cool. I like this, one that will stick with you.
Yeah, and it probably motivated you and helped you in your future races.
Yeah, and I don't think I had success, much past that first run, but it was give me a good taste of like what I was capable of, and if all of the stars align just right, like this is where I'm at. Which was cool. I mean, I'm sure the same feeling that you had when you're talking about that run with Drake.
Yeah. It's it puts it into perspective that you can do this.
Yeah.
So it seems like there used to be a time when a lot more of the top drivers would travel to races up here and that sort of thing. What do we have to do to make that happen again? What was special about those races that they all came up to those, but they don't come up much unless they're paid to come up or something like that?
Or it's a one-off. I think, back when we did the RC Pro Series, it was in its infancy in the mid 2000s, and it was a really cool series. It was 4 different regions. I think there was 4 or 5 different races in each region, and then you got points for each race, and then I think you had 2 drops, or I can't remember, but then everybody got together at the finals, and then points were awarded at the finals, and then, however you did then, total all your points up for the year, and then it was, whoever had the most was the national champ, and that was pretty appealing. That was a really fun series. It's not as prevalent as it used to be, which is kind of a shame, but I don't know. I think I don't have a good reason. The only thing I can think of is maybe there's just too many races.
Yeah.
Hard to, which is good, because that means, if there's races, there's people there to support them. It means the hobby has grown. But with these guys are going to nationals, they're going to worlds every year. Some of them do on-road as well. There's a lot of racing, and there's a finite number of weekends in the year.
Yeah.
And the window of good weather racing for outdoors in the Northwest is pretty short compared to other parts of the country as well.
True. That RC Pro Series, when it started and it was going, full steam, it was really cool, the format that they had. You had to qualify to get to go to the nationals, correct?
I don't think you had to I think anybody that ran one Pro Series race, like a regional race, could go to the finals.
Yeah.
I don't think Adam Drake went to any of the regional races, but he went to the finals in 2005 down at Sun Valley. I remember that race quite well. That was, oh man, that track was so awesome. That track was amazing. It was in the worst part of town possible, but the track was just out of this world. It was phenomenal. It was like 210 feet long, and I don't know how deep it was, but it was. There was long laps. I think we were like 8 or 9 laps for a 5-minute qualifier.
Wow.
That was a good race, but I don't know if you had to qualify. I can't remember exactly the particulars, but you had to be like in the top. You had to be in like the top 3, maybe top 5, and have some help and do well at the finals to win the national championship.
Uh-huh.
It's like one year, the year in 2005, we went to the finals. I can't remember exactly where I ended up finishing in the West region. I was running monster truck of all things back then with the Revo, and we went to the finals, and I qualified 3rd, if I remember right, and I finished 2nd in the race, and I ended up 5th overall in the nation that year.
In monster truck.
In monster truck, yeah.
Prestigious class, though.
You should have had a 4-stroke in it.
Did you ever see Damon's?
Yeah, I remember that very well.
That thing was wicked.
It was so badass. He's still got the 4-stroke stadium truck that he still runs.
Yeah, that's
it's
awesome.
so cool. Yep, he still runs that. Thumper.
Yeah. Yeah, we all thought we all looked at him like he was crazy, but
he kind of was, but
but hey, it was cool. It sounded cool, and the torque of those 4-strokes is insane.
Yep. I dreamt about those 4-stroke trucks for years, wanting to do something like that. And I still kind of do a 4-stroke something, but I don't know if it's feasible. But they're just so cool, so different.
Yeah,
That'd
I
be
remember.
pretty sweet.
I remember I lost to the guy that won. I think he won the championship overall. Was Robert
Battier.
No. Mike. It wasn't Robert Battier, the guy that won Worlds a few years back.
I know who you're talking about, but yeah.
Mike Battier.
Battiel.
Yeah, he was
something like that.
I think he was an engineer for Traxxas.
Yep.
I think he worked for Traxxas in some capacity, and
Lives
he was
in
a super
Texas.
cool guy. Yeah, super fast. He was cool.
Yep. That's funny. Monster trucks. God.
Yeah, 45 minutes of struggle.
Yeah, just to keep the thing running. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. And then we had, man, you had the starter boxes for the Revos that were all set on an angle, and who had it was, man, who was it that made all the parts for those things? Local,
It was Roy Pitchland.
Roy. Yep, Roy. Yep. He's not around anymore either. That sucks.
Last I knew, he moved to California some time ago. Shoot, it's almost been 12, 14 years since I've talked to him.
Yeah.
He was a good guy. He was fun.
I remember all that, and then you had the King's Heads guys.
Yeah.
They were Northwest guys, weren't they?
I don't know if like Chris. I think Chris King was the guy behind that company. I don't think he was a local to the Northwest, but there was a group in Spokane that were, heavily invested in those products. And
well, yeah, that's because the McCreary's were running Thunder Tiger, and we needed the King Heads parts to keep the Thunder Tiger running.
Oh man, I remember
from breaking chassis.
Oh man,
that was so long ago.
I remember when 8 scales didn't have threaded shock bodies.
Yep, he had the little clips.
Oh man, the little clips for preload. Yeah, I remember.
You remember, and you're a lot younger than I am.
Yeah, I did. First race I went to was in '99. A long time ago.
I've got my first, ribbon that I ever wanted to race hanging on the wall right here. I'm going to see. Was it 1991?
Wow.
My first ribbon.
I was born in '92.
Yeah, exactly.
Travis was born even later than that.
Yep, 98.
98?
Yeah.
Oh my word.
God. Yeah, now I feel old.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, man, I remember days RC. You had to build your batteries. If you wanted good batteries, you could buy assembled batteries, but they weren't as good. If you got like a good match set of cells, build your own batteries with the thin bars, and cutting motors every other run if you're running mod, and solder new brushes on, and man, it was a struggle back then.
Yeah, and then you dead short them and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we zap batteries, and we had motor dynos. I remember Dave Gullickson had a motor dyno at Nationals in '03, and he had just a line of people at his pit table like the whole weekend trying to is this the motor? Is this the one? Is it going to be faster than the rest of them? That was at Stock Nationals back then. That was man, those were the days. Frequency clips, and I remember when synthesized receivers came out, where you could you didn't have to carry around a box of crystals. And then Spectrum came out, and it was like, whoa, this is insane.
Yeah, it's like the world had changed. It was awesome. But I enjoy RC more now, I think. I really do.
You can focus a lot more on driving.
Yeah. Yeah, the cars are so good.
The car.
Yeah, the electronics are so easy now.
And they're so durable. My dad used to give me such a hard time. I slayed front caster blocks and front A-arms on the original Triple X buggy.
Yeah.
The original low C Triple X. I remember when the Triple X buggy came out.
Yeah,
that was almost 20 years ago.
I remember when the Gold Pan RC10 came out and the JRX2 came out because I had both of them.
Yeah, that's going back a long ways.
Yeah, I have a Gold Pan RC10 around here somewhere in a box. But
was it one of the remake ones or like an OG one?
It's an OG one.
Nice.
I have an old TQ10 as well. The carbon fiber chassis, you know.
Mm. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, when we started, it was the Double X and the B3 were the hot ticket for 2-wheel drive cars. The T3 and then the Double XD were the trucks of the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember days when you ran mod, you had to have good batteries or else you wouldn't make runtime.
That's right.
Like, taking a practice lap was a gamble. Lighting tires on fire. Oh man, that was a good time.
I've never lit tires on fire.
Yeah, we used to do that. The old low-C taper pens. You'd spray them with you'd spin them on a wrench, and douse them with motor spray while it's spinning. Take a lighter, light it, and then just let it keep spinning. It would only burn for a few seconds, and then right after the fire went out, you sauce the piss out of them and let them sit.
Jeez, sounds healthy.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I vividly remember at the old TRC when it was on 6th Avenue. I believe Chris Bridgewater was in the announcer's tower announcing a race, and my dad was in the pit area flaming a set of tires, and it fell off the wrench into a garbage can, and there was a good bit of flamage for a brief moment, and Bridgewater like over the PA, he's like, Hadley, you put that out? Sorry.
Oh, man. No, it's a wonder more tracks didn't go up in flames with all that stuff going on.
Yeah, it was pretty wild back then. Buggy grip, all the smell of buggy grip.
I used to love the Paragon. The smell of it. I loved it.
I got into RC at the perfect time. All that shit was behind me.
Brushless, LiPo, 2.4.
Yep. That's just it. Yeah, when I was getting into it, it's like LiPo was like the big mind-blowing thing.
Yeah. I remember there was a lot of struggles with LiPos when they first came out. A lot of fires, and people would forget to change their chargers to LiPo mode and blow batteries up, and it was kind of scary at times. But then every now and then, shoot, a nickel metal hydride cell would blow up, and it sounded like a bomb going off. It was pretty gnarly.
Yeah, they sounded like a shotgun.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
When those would happen, it was pretty dangerous. And but today it's much improved.
So, there's the obvious elephant in the room that everybody wants to know. Everybody's been asking. What does this interview signify, or people want to know, are you coming back?
And we are out of time for this week. Thank you everybody for tuning in to episode 26. Find out the answer next week on Trackwalk's RC podcast, episode number 27 with Travis Shrevin. We'll see you guys next week.